Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 6 starts now.
A well-known activist believes he was wrongly arrested and charged for exercising his right to protest. And now 2 years later, he's taking that claim to federal court. Glad you're with us at 6. Among those named in the lawsuit, the Macomb County prosecutor and the police chief of Shelby Township.
Rev WT Rideout was a prominent part of demonstrations following the murder of George Floyd. Our cameras were there in Shelby Township as he and others staged a protest that blocked the intersection of 23 Mile and Van Dyke. Victor Williams is live with more on what Rideout is saying about his arrest that night and the charges that followed. Victor.
Well, Kimberly and Devin, we got our hands on that federal lawsuit, and it's a very lengthy one. We're talking about 64 pages that are full of allegations, and we were able to talk to both sides moments ago right here in front of the federal courthouse.
I feel like a knee was on my neck.
A major lawsuit has been filed against Shelby Township Police Chief Robert Shalide and Macomb County Prosecutor Pete Lucido for their roles in the arrest and prosecution of Reverend WJ Rideout, an encounter that was caught on video.
I know how people feel, those who were unarmed and were shot and killed. What if I would have been shot and killed?
The suit says Reverend Rideout was wrongfully arrested and charged on July 22, 2020, 2 days after exercising his right to free speech, calling for the chief's resignation. That protest taking place shortly after it was revealed the chief was using a fake Twitter account for racist commentary on protests taking place around the world.
If it would have been me or you, we would have been gone. Color matters in America.
Charges were later dropped, but the questioned protest happened in the midst of tensions being high between civilians and police officers in response to the death of George Floyd. Reverend Rideout's lawyer says it's a clear difference in how both sides of the protests were treated.
People that were there to deliver the message that Chief Shalide approved of had a much different experience in Shelby Township than people who expressed a different view.
Shelby Township attorney Rob Huth was there to respond to the lawsuit and its allegations. He says the Reverend was arrested for taking the protest into a busy roadway.
People were given citations that stepped out into the road. Van Dyke's busy. We didn't want folks there.
I believe the powers that be, DOJ on down, Attorney General on down, federal, everyone should step in and say this was an injustice.
And the damages being sought out are not being named at this point in time. Live downtown, Victor Williams, Local 4.
Hey, Victor, thanks.
Right now, Detroit police are looking for the person who shot 3 people not far from the city's downtown. 2 people were killed. Another critically hurt in the shooting. Happened on East Larned and Orleans Street this afternoon. Police say someone in a black SUV pulled up to a Ford Edge and started shooting. Police are interviewing a passenger, but right now they are asking anyone in the community who may have seen something, might know something, to come forward. A body found on Detroit's west side could be that of a missing retired Detroit police officer. The discovery was made in a small wooded area at Stopel Park at Outer Drive in Auburn. Sources tell Local 4 the remains are believed to be those of retired Officer Stefan Hodo, who has been missing since June 30th. A man was caught firing one of Hodo's personal guns into a home near there. It's feared that the former officer was a victim of foul play. Chief James White says they are still waiting for a positive ID, though, via an autopsy.
The significant rise of cancer cases in Genesee is a huge concern, and those living there want to know if it's tied to the water crisis. The hope is a new study will soon get underway to look at the possible connection between lead in the water and cancer. Consumer investigator Help Me Hank reports from Flint.
You talk to people here in Flint, and many obviously still have huge concerns about the water crisis. But now there's a new problem: cancer. A dramatic rise in cancer rates here in the vehicle city, and people want to know why.
What I want to see is to make sure that if we have an issue, that it's addressed and preventive and being proactive.
Arthur Woodson is worried. Cancer rates here in his hometown of Flint are soaring. The disease taking the lives of his loved ones.
Very concerning. My aunt passed away. She had 5 different cancers. My cousin passed away. She had 3 different cancers.
What is happening here in Genesee County, and is this cancer crisis connected to the water switch? Newly released data from the health department reveals cancer rates here significantly higher than anywhere else in the state of Michigan.
This is something that people are concerned about because they see their friends, their family members, their loved ones being diagnosed with cancer, and it seems to be a lot more prevalent than you would expect. You hear about a lot more of your neighbors having cancer than you would expect.
Kaylee Blaney is with the county health department. She's pushing for a deep dive, a study to determine why the rates are in fact higher. Is the water a factor? And what can be done to reverse the disturbing trend?
We need to do a little bit deeper of a dive to make sure that we're looking at that geographic spread and figuring out, is this clustered around the city? Is it spread out throughout the county? Is it tied to a certain occupation? Is it tied to a certain water source?
Many are very eager to get this new study underway to figure out exactly what is going on here in Flint, but that not only takes time, it also takes a lot of money. The hope is that that new study will get underway, though, sometime within the next year. We're here in downtown Flint tonight. Hank Winchester, help me, Hank, Local 4.
All right, Hank. He's been accused of misspending the school district's money as well as not having the credentials to actually get the job in the first place. And today, the embattled superintendent for the Clintondale School District in Macomb County sits down for a one-on-one talk with our Paula Tutman to clear the air. He says he views the attacks on his credibility as a direct threat to his reputation and his job, and he wants his district to hear his side of the story. Paula is in Clinton Township with more on what the superintendent has to say. Paula?
Yeah, hi guys. He has a lot to say. He says he has haters because he's made hard decisions on accountability. He says he's done nothing wrong. He says he has the proper credentials to hold the position as a superintendent in this state, and he says he fully expects his contract to be extended at the next school board meeting, July 25th. Two former board members have raised concerns about what Rodriguez Broadnax placed on his resume to get the superintendent's job in the Clintondale Community School District. They claim in North Carolina there is no record of him teaching in that state and no record of proper licensing and certification to teach.
In North Carolina, like other states, there are different rules for certification, lateral entry, or whatever you want to call it there, just like an alternative route. I really did not get a license there, did not have a license in North Carolina, but it doesn't show on my resume that I had a license there in North Carolina.
His license to teach in Nevada is also being questioned because his detractors say they could find no record of his declared teaching license number.
In Nevada, I applied for license, never received a license in Nevada because of their certification requirements or rules. And so, but I stayed there 2 years superintendent. The board and I worked through that, and that wasn't an issue.
And so you're saying that they knew you didn't have a license?
Yes.
Nor did they require it? Nor did you put that on your resume to get this job?
They require it. No.
There are also challenges on his credentials and resume entries for Indiana and South Dakota. Last night, Mr. Broadnax sent this 10-page document with photocopies of various certifications addressed to the Clintondale schools community. It includes a readout from the executive search company that submitted his resume for the job prior to his being hired July 1st, 2021, reasserting they did their due diligence in vetting him. In that document, he also addresses questions about district monies on out-of-town school trips he spent and got reimbursed for on personal items and alcohol, saying, in part, we do not always get it right.
I took a team, and nobody did anything malicious like they wouldn't ordinarily do. Some things were just hooked to the district credit card at the hotel. That's it.
Was that a mistake?
That was a mistake that probably we didn't realize that the district credit card, or some of my team didn't realize the district credit card was hooked, and that alcohol would be hooked onto the hotel credit card.
In his final summation,
I think that we should focus on what's important, and those are kids. I've been to school. I have my education. I have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a specialist degree. I have my certifications as a principal and superintendent. I also have 8 years as a superintendent. This shouldn't even be a question again.
So I did speak to one of those former school board members who's challenging the credentials and the spending practices. He says, listen, he stands by those challenges. He says all he's doing is he's asking the current school board to do their own due diligence, not to count on what a executive headhunting agency has done, but to do their own due diligence. Look at the original resume, compare it to the current resume, make some phone calls, figure out what happened, make a public declaration, in other words, make it public, and put all of the questions to rest. Guys?
Yeah, a lot to go through there, and you did. All right, Paula.
A lawsuit has been filed to try to disqualify Ryan Kelly from the governor's race. The lawsuit says Kelly should be declared an insurrectionist whose votes won't count because of his role in the U.S. Capitol riot in 2021. Kelly faces several misdemeanor charges. The U.S. Constitution says anyone who is engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the U.S. and has taken an oath to support the Constitution cannot hold office. Kelly took an oath in 2019 when he was a planning commissioner in a Michigan community. He's one of 5 candidates in the August 2nd Republican primary.
Now a Local 4 update to a story of overgrown grass on Detroit's east side.
That's right. We told you about a neighbor's fight to get the city to do something about that vacant home next door. The grass was growing out of control at the home. Well, today crews came out to clean things up. The owner of the home is now facing an upcoming court date and at least $1,000 in fines.